Thanks for coming back. Today, wow, I was going to tell you what date it is, but I think I've lost track of date and time. I believe it's a Saturday, the end of March, I believe. Somebody can throw the date out there so we all know what date it is. Seems like your host should be prepared with date and time. It is 2 o'clock, I know that, and it is March of 2020. Anyhow, as many of you know, I like to take the first few minutes and just try to warm up here because we have people that are coming online and trying to find out where to go, who might be new at this gig, who might not have seen a Facebook Live show before and they're trying it. So here we go. Hello to those of you who are already here, Michelle, Diane, Joanne, Patty, Finch, and Randy. I'm not going to do that the whole thing or I'll drive you guys nuts. So let's start with some fun pre-show stuff. Today I went and I found some fun Gary Larson, Far Side. You guys remember him. I went and found some fun cartoons that I thought were perfect for right now where we're at. So let's start with the first one. I'm going to hold my phone up because I don't know how to make a picture just pop up here. So bear with me as I line it up. Oh, there we go. And straight. There we go. Kill something and eat it every day. Kind of feels like that. Only not kill something, unless you're homeschooling your children. And then you probably shouldn't eat them. Here's another one that I thought was a good one. Again, bear with me as I line up in front of the deal. Didn't wash hands alert. Yeah, this day and age, whew. You'll be kicked out. Actually, they're not even supposed to be dining, are they? No dining in. This one was, it's not really, well, I guess it is. It is, because we're talking about toilet paper, and we all know how. It's an innocent mistake, but nevertheless, a moment later, Maurice found himself receiving toilet paper. Toilet paper. Everybody stocked up, I hope? Crazy. This feels like kind of in, I love the desert. Yeah, in the fishbowl, looking at those. Actually, we can go out, and lucky for us, Arizona's pretty big, pretty wide open, so it's easy to go find space to go. One or two more here. Oh, this is me. Thanks for being my friend, Wayne. I'm so glad you guys have fun and we do so much stuff online. You guys are awesome. And this is the last one. I just, Violet clowns. He kids me not. He kids me not. Yeah, he's real sexy, isn't he? Love that nose. So there you go. There's some fun Gary Larson. And the other thing I thought I'd do before we start, we've got a good showing and it's been 3 minutes, so everybody's getting here faster this time, which is awesome. So bear with me here and we'll start in just a few more minutes. I still want to see if there's more people trying to find us, and it's not always easy. I struggle to find me most days as well. Another book. Last time we talked, I showed you guys some of the other books I use. Well, one other book, the Texas Sayings. Here is another one that my husband, Sam Lucky, and I use a lot, especially as we're going through and writing the Undertaker series. This is called Frontier Slang, Lingo, and Phrases. It's really fun. It's got some great stuff in it, and I will just give you a couple of examples. For drunk, it has a thing in the back where you can do the reverse, like words for drunk. Way back when. Bent, blue, boiled, booze blind, boozy, been in the sun, fuddled, full as a tick, ginned, half seas over, in his cups, jingled, lapper, loaded for bears, loaded to the gunwales, a Lushington, mauled, moppy, oiled, petrified, pickled, roostered, shaved, shot in the neck. I don't know how that one works. Slewed, snapped, soaked, soused, squiffed and squiffy. I'm feeling squiffy. Swizzled, tangle-footed, tangle-legged. I mean, that all makes sense. Tight, tote, wet, white liner, and whittled. Those are just a few examples of for being drunk. And on that note, there's one more. See, we got 5 minutes here, so let's do a couple more minutes as people keep coming on and figuring out where to see us. Hello, everybody. You're at the right place. We're just warming up, getting ready for everybody. Liquor. Let's do a couple of liquors. Gut Warmer, Jack of Diamonds, Joy Juice, Kansas Sheep Dip, Neck Oil, Nose Paint, Anti-Fogmatic, Bug Juice, Bumblebee Whiskey, Scamper Juice, Sheepherder's Delight, Sling, Snake Pizen, Taos Lightning, Tarantula Juice, we're out, Toddy Tongue Oil, Tonsil Paint, and Tonsil Varnish, Tornado Juice. I like that one. Fine. Who Hit John? Who Hit John? Let's have some Who Hit John. And Wild Mare's Milk. So there you go. That's pretty good. I think we're good enough to get going. We got lots of people here. Anyone else that comes, they can always join in. And a couple things to announce or just talk about. I'm still waiting for In Cahoots in the Prickly Pear with the Prickly Pear Posse to be available on Audible. It has sat for almost 2 months in Audible's where they go through and they review it. And I'm going to try to contact a human and see what's going on. I know from other authors that it is taking a while for all books to come out of there. For some reason, the review process has been slowed. Publish, and then about 2 weeks later you got okay if everything went smooth. Like I said, it's been since February 5th. So Lisa Larson, who did an amazing job with this, the lines from the Morgan sisters just crack me up when she reads them. We're waiting. We just sit there checking every day going, are we ready yet? Are we ready yet? So as soon as it goes live, I will let everybody know on Facebook. I'll probably write a newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, go over to my website and join my newsletter list. I don't send too much. I usually try to send something fun and free in it, whether you have to let us know to mail you a fun magnet or something, or I'm going to start doing some free things I've written, little bits and pieces, just to keep it kind of fun and light. That via Instagram, I think I might hire a plane and drop flyers, as long as it's spread out so there's no social, mixing when you get your flyer. But I will let you guys know. Believe me, this has been the longest thing. As we wait day after day, stuck inside the house, and I check my phone over and over to see if it's live yet. It's taking. It's on its way. And in the meantime, I've sent Lisa Deadwood Shorts number 5, which is 10.5 Fatal Traditions. And she is working on reading that and getting that ready. I'd like to tell you it'd be ready in a couple months, but as long as Cahoots is taking, I hope to have it by Christmas. Sheesh, go figure. Anyway. So I thank you for your patience, and I thank all of you guys who have signed in and are here now ready to talk and hang out. I will be having questions texted to me on my phone so I don't stare like this at the whole time for you guys to watch me, squint and try to look. I don't usually need glasses yet, but it's coming. Yeah, I'm getting up there. It's coming. Okay, so let's start with a question. Yeah, here we go. Officially, what we're supposed to talk about in part, behind the scenes, whoops, Dead Case in Deadwood. I can never get this twisting right. And Better Off, there we go. Better Off Dead in Deadwood. Book 3, Book 4 of the Deadwood Mystery Series. Now, when I wrote these, I was still working full-time as a technical writer for a banking software company, and my coworkers who have come to hang out with me today. We're not getting paid for you to hang out with me this time, which is a real bummer. So when I was writing, I go to work in the morning, spend all day technical documentation about banking software, which was riveting when I wrote it, trust me, not. And then come home, and I had 2 little ones. I had like a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, Sam and I did. And we would spend time in the evening, you know, hanging out, all of us, and doing stuff. And then when the kids and he would go to sleep around 9 or 10, then I'd go sit on my couch with my laptop and I would start working on Violet's life. So it was a real balance, and I would work until about 2, and then I'd go to bed, and then I'd wake up about 7, kind of drag myself out of bed, get myself dressed, and rush into work. So I was pretty red-eyed by Thursday, and by Thursday night, I didn't do any writing on Thursday nights. I'd come home, play with the conk early, because that was about 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, and I was younger then, and everybody told me, you know, you're going to get older and you're not going to be able to keep doing that. And I said, oh, I can just work, work, work. It's part of who I am. It's like my dad and my mom work real hard. Yeah. Now, oh boy, I don't do that well like that anymore. But fortunately, I'm at home. Job anymore, which is good for all my coworkers, because I don't know that I was a very good tech writer, because I was often daydreaming about what was to come and what I wanted to write. And sometimes it was hard to pay attention to banking software. And sometimes I would tell my wonderful bosses that I had big plans to add a murder scene into the tellers' technical documents, the bank tellers, or I might slip a sex scene in there and see if anyone's paying attention, because repeatedly I was told nobody reads technical. So don't worry about, you know, everything being perfect, because nobody reads it. And I thought, if I start adding sex scenes, I bet you some people will start reading my technical docs. But I did not do that. I held out. I think I should have. I think I could have made that fun with a couple bank tellers. Could have gotten sexy. Anyhow, that gives you a little background on where I was at when I was writing these 2 stories. Meantime, thank you all who like my hat. I've had this hat for probably, I don't know, I got it for a costume long ago. It's a little heavy, so midway through I might switch so my head doesn't cave in. That's kind of, but it's a fun hat, and I like to wear it when I'm lazy for Halloween. The only thing is, because it gets stuffed in a box for half the year, and I can't do this. Oh, it gets a little smushed sometimes. I think it's supposed. Yeah, what are you gonna do? So let's get some questions going. Okay, Patty Fitch. She wants me to what Violet's professional role is, and I'm gonna botch this. I'll be the first to admit, a lot of times when I write these words or other languages, I don't do them very well verbally. I try to listen to them several times, but I took Spanish in high school for 4 years and a couple years in college. I did not take German. I do Spanish words pretty well, but German, it sounds like this. Yeah, it's kind of like that K exclamation mark. There's an African language, I think, when the gods must be crazy. That kind of, that's what it sounds like. But I'll try, Patty. So, and it's going to be wrong. But the way Carolyn says it so marvelously when she reads it is Schafrichter. So, Schafrichter. I try to put a lot of that into it when I say it out loud. I recommend going to how do you say Scharfrichter and let the computer tell you, because they have much better translators than I am. But it's fun. Vicki Husky is an amazing lady who, I talked about her I think last time. Vicki, you're a star. I can't stop thinking about you. She taught German and Spanish. She's just retired lately from school. And Vicki came online several books ago and started helping me with my German and my Spanish to make sure I had everything right on the page as much as possible. Now, you know, there are things we kind of adjust to fit. I believe Vicki talked about last time to me that Scharfrichter is actually, I think, the male form of the word, but it really is better for what Violet does. I mean, that's kind of not a, you know, female role typically. So we kind of left it in that male form instead of female. So if you're good at German and you want to tell me how it's wrong, yeah, I know about that, but I think it's fun to leave it as is and use it this way. So, okay, let's move on. It's a good one, Patty. Gail Mathers, did Jane see something? Is that why she was killed? Yes, I believe it is later on in Better Off Dead where we find out that Jane she overheard something from Callie. I believe that Callie said about what Callie was really up to. And so she had to be taken care of. Now, I don't think Masterson wanted her to necessarily receive what she did from Callie, but Callie's a Spitfire. Callie's trouble. Callie is, actually, we might learn more about that in a future book. So if you haven't read Beyond 4, well, I kind of gave a little something away, but most of you, I think, here have. So Callie was badass, number one. She was tiny. She's like a little tiny mini Doberman Pinscher or something, but she was pretty nasty. And so, yeah, she did some not so nice things to both Helen Tarragon and Jane and others. But we haven't learned the full extent of Callie's wrath at this point yet. And Gail had a second one. Let's see. Why did the albino have Ray tied up to kill him? Well, Ray was doing some undercover work for Cooper, as we know from the quiz. If you took the quizzes that on my website, Ray was helping out, and we have not yet found out why Ray was helping Cooper on this. But Ray says how Violet distracted him, and so he got sloppy. And so Ray was in trouble, and he blames Violet still to this day. But Ray got sloppy and screwed up, and so he was about to be killed for his screw up when Violet came to his rescue, which I think she did. Now, Ray disagrees, but, he would have been dead if she hadn't been there. So Ray needs to just suck it up, and admit that she saved his butt this time. Okay. Let's see. Sharon Wheeler, where did the clocks go that were behind last week? You mean my clocks? I thought you meant the clocks in the book. Well, in an effort to not be utterly boring, I was thinking that it would be fun to not only change my hats around, but to also change my background around. And that way, too, so that you can come on if you're looking through like the YouTube. Thank you to so many of you for going over to that page and following it or subscribing to it, because now I have a YouTube page that we can put all these videos on. And if you're really bored and you're wanting to, for some crazy reason, you can go over to YouTube and just play these videos over and over. It'll be like a binge on Ann Day. But anyway, I took the clocks down. What you can't see is there's the huge one. We have a huge one right here. And I'd show you, but I'm surrounded by cords, and if I move too much, it'll all come crashing down. But I have a huge clock next to me this time so I can see how long I'm going. And then I have the little kitty clock over on my counter here. So for now, Arizona. That's our backdrop for this show. Next week, we'll have a whole new backdrop except for the red wall. I'm not going to repaint. I love you, but no. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Sharon. Let me check another source here. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at what questions are rolling in. Why did the headless guy at Harvey's have Violet's card? Gail, you have some amazing questions. You're doing really well. Well, what we learn, and I believe that's at the end of book 3. Is that right? No, at the end of book 3, I believe Jane dies. It's at the end of book 2 that the headless guy had Violet's card. And so we find out that this is really coming into play with next week's books, Extegrin. He was in contact with Violet's ex, and Violet's ex was looking her up. So he had gotten her name, and he was going to track her down and give the information to someone else who will be in book 5. So he had the card in his pocket, he was looking her up for someone. But we, of course, don't know that till as time goes on. And as most of you read my books, I like to plant seeds I like to plant little things here and there that I might put in that same book, or I might use a book or two later. And it may frustrate some of you, and I appreciate that, but you've got to remember series. And if I was just doing single titles, then I would answer everything within the same book, and we'd wrap it up, and then would be like, I think Agatha Christie, Murder, She Wrote, different things, you know, TV episodes. They'd be episodic stories where we would just have a new one each time. But we're doing a series, you guys, big, long series, which is so much fun. And I'm glad you guys are willing to go along with me on this big, long series, because it makes it so much more fun. If we can answer some things within the book and wrap up part of a mystery or one mystery, but then have more to come, it helps give me a lot of different opportunities as I move forward with each story. Let's go back to the questions. Gail Mathers, yes, Callie is an albino. She was she had contacts in. I don't know if you remember that part. I believe dead. She complains to Dominic Masterson about her contacts and how much they drive her nuts. So she is, well, she was. I shouldn't give that away. She is at this point still an albino, and who has gone missing at the end of book 4. Lisa Marie, what is Cooper's first name? Lisa asks here in Deadwood at the fan party, as well as online, and it's a running joke, if you will, because she wants me to tell. And I'm not going to tell you Cooper's first name till it comes out in the story. And someday it will be there. But for now, you're going to have to wait a little longer, Lisa. So let's see. Other questions you guys have. I really appreciate all you guys hanging in and all these questions coming at us. I was thinking I could tell you more about this, like book 3, Cornelius Curien. He comes on to play, and one of the things that, you know, I like to tell people about Cornelius in book 3 when he is that I didn't like Harvey. I didn't really have a great idea who this guy was going to be. I just wanted to have a paranormal investigator show up, and I wanted him to be a bit eccentric, and Violet to have fun with him, and you know, and all of us to have fun with him. However, I did not realize that Cornelius was going to become all that Cornelius has become. He's a fun character, and when I'm in things about everything, because he knows so many random weird facts. So I'm always looking up things when I'm doing a scene with him to see what all things he's going to spew for all of us. Cornelius, I had this for this investigator because I liked it. And I went over to my friend Beth, where I used to work, banking software, and I said, Cornelius, what's the Cornelius Curien? She just spit that out, and that was how Cornelius's name came to be. We thought it was a funny name, and it just went on from there. So, and then the Abe Lincoln lookalike, I don't know. He walked into the room, and I looked over with Violet, and that's what we saw was the top hat, the cane. All that is Cornelius rolling in, and part of me was going along with Natalie and just laughing my butt off at what, you know, who just walked in, and the other was with Violet going, what is this? So let's go back to some questions. Becca Klein, how did you come up with the character of Cornelius? Ha! I just told you a little bit about that. So it's like I knew you were going to ask that. So yeah, that was Cornelius, and he was a ghost whisperer from the start. That was something that I could see him thinking he could whisper and talk to ghosts. And I thought, I like that idea, this eccentric guy. But as the series has continued, just like Violet, Cornelius's abilities, and so it's been really kind of fun with all of these characters to watch them grow. And part of it's because they've come together. They needed each other in order to be. So Cornelius started, I didn't know if I'd keep him, but by the end of the book, of book 3, I knew he was there to stay along with everybody else, and he was part of the team. So that's kind of how Cornelius came, and the cornflower blue eyes, I believe those were my friend Beth as well. She just said he would have cornflower blue eyes, of course. So, April Parrish. Hi, April. I have always loved the fact that you leave things come back up in a future book. Thank you, April. In the early days, I used to I caught a little flack here and there from readers who don't like cliffhangers and who I guess wanted it to be all wrapped up in one nice bow, tied bowed package. But yeah, that was not from the start. After I realized I was going to write a series, that was not what I saw happening, because at the time there were series I was watching on television, and what I liked best was that there were little threads always that were left untied, so they'd come back in the future. And I thought that was so much fun, so that was kind of what I wanted to do. So let's see. Joanne Reinhold, is Cornelius as crazy as he seems, or is he just sly? In the early days, he sure seemed crazy. And he still does. He's quite eccentric. But Violet is learning more and more. He works with him and his stupid protein shakes in the morning, that he's not as obtuse or crazy out of it as he seems. He's in there, and you really see signs of it when, I think in book 5, or boy, I have to think about when that was, but when her ex Rex shows up on scene with Cornelius there, how Cornelius plays him back. He's very aware of what's going on, but yet he likes to, I think, just drive Violet a little bit crazy. I think that's part of what Cornelius, it's just fun for him to watch Violet react, because she really does. Just like Harvey. I mean, Harvey likes to say things that makes Violet blush, or do things that makes Violet a little crazy, because it's fun. Cornelius is kind of similar in that way. Thank you, Joanne, for that question. Gail, Doc says Prudence was marveling over the teeth. What do the teeth mean to her? What do the teeth mean to Prudence? Wow, that gets deep, because there's a lot going on. Teeth, go figure. But there is a lot of backstory that comes with those teeth. Now, for those of you who are reading the Deadwood Undertaker series that Sam Lucky and I are writing together, you are starting to get more of you're starting to, and you will get more of an understanding of Prudence as well as the teeth. So I advise you, we're having a great time telling you what happened before. And for those of you who haven't started the Undertaker series, if you're curious, I know some of you, I'm not really into Westerns, but I'm here to tell you it's not just Western. There is a lot of paranormal and a lot of humor with the guys and Clementine, Rabbit, Boone, and Clementine, and Hank in the Deadwood Undertaker. So even if you're not a big fan of Westerns usually, you might want to go back and read it, just because it's going to fill in so much information about this series, the Deadwood Mystery series, because we're getting backstory like crazy of what had happened before and why Violet's dealing with what she's dealing with now. So, and probably in the future, I'll do one of these and we'll talk about the Deadwood Undertaker series. And if Mr. Lucky will join me for that, we could question him, interrogate him, if you will. But we'll see, one thing at a time. We'll see how long we want to keep going on these crazy things. Okay, let me find another question. The stage of your mind, Claudia. Hi, Claudia. It's good to see you again. I talked about this a little bit in the last one, so I don't want to be too redundant, but I had an image of Addie riding her bicycle with chicken feathers flying through the air as Violet was chasing her down. And so that was the start of Elvis. I didn't really plan to keep that chicken for too long. I didn't have plans to, make fried chicken or anything like that. But I just didn't really think about the long term of things. But here's Elvis still. I mean, Elvis is now, He's a crazy chicken. One of my favorite scenes is, what is it, in 8, 7 or 8, I think, where Violet's sitting on the back porch eating her lunch with Elvis out there, and she's conversing with Elvis. It's like her therapist. I just love the idea of sitting there talking to a chicken while you eat your sandwich. How will we ever find out what is in the closet? From Lisa. Oh, Lisa, I can tell you. And I heaven. It's getting very exciting and what's going on. And we call it the hellhole. The hellhole is back. As I said before, I will start something in a book and it might go a little dark for a bit, but it will come back. And that is the case with the hole in the floor in Jane's office. So stay tuned to book 11, which I hope will be out at the end of May. Right now I'm working on 2,000 words a day at least, trying to get that done so I can get the book off to my lovely editor. So I kind of live in another world right now, Violet's world. It gets kind of confusing with what's real out there because it's not really, it's kind of surreal what's going on out in the world. But enough of that. Do you have an ending for the series in mind? That's from Jan Lawrence. Hi, Jan, and hi to Jan. I do have an ending in mind. It changes a little as the series goes. But I don't want you to feel like, oh no, the world's going to end, because, and I'm not going to tell you what the ending is, of course, but what I'm thinking, it's, you know, it's like the end of a chapter kind of in life. It's not necessarily the end, because what do I write at the end of every book that so many of you hate me and want to reach through and strangle me for? Is the end for now. So that there is something, we have a series arc, you know, to get into the writing world. You have a opening scene, a first turning point, a midpoint, a second turning point, the climax, the final, the black moment, the climax, and the final resolution. I am following a series arc with each of these books. So I do have that going on. I just, I kind of leave some of this out here. I leave myself some space with an ending in mind. So that's as far as I'm going to go on that. Thank you, Jan. And I need to answer one thing quick for Jan's mom, Doris. It's the question of where is the morgue on quiz number 3. And the morgue is the Mutter Brothers garage behind the Mutter Brother Funeral Home. So that is where the morgue is. So I wanted to let Doris know that. Yourself in trouble there, almost, more than once, I think. Let's see. Please torture Ray and Rex some more, from Timya. Hi, Timmy. Yes, there's more to come. Trust me. I love the villains. I love to have villains. They're so much fun, especially when they're such jerks. It was nice to see Violet get a win career-wise with the hotel sale, from Rebecca Klein. Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, boy, in the early days, dang job. Ray was over her too. Oh boy, he was such a jerk about it, trying to take her job left and right. So when she finally got the sale of the hotel, although it took a little bit, you know, it wasn't an instant, here's all your money, it's all done, thanks to Cornelius. But it was nice when she, now and then, it's like, finally. Oh, are you planning on doing the Deadwood Undertaker audio? That's Paula Kirby. Thank you for asking that, Paula. We are, Sam and I are. We're just, there's a lot of different options on doing the series in audio. For example, do we want to have a male and a female read the different parts, or do we want to pick just one, you know, like Carolyn reads all my male parts. Ooh, that sounds bad. Carolyn reads the male lines in my books. And Lisa does the same with the Jackrabbit series and the Dig Site series. So do we want one that just adjusts her or his voice, or do we want to mix that up? And there's a lot of other things to consider. So it's coming. We're just making some decisions, taking a little time to decide. So because once you go, audiobooks cost a lot of money to make. And once you do it, you don't want to go, oh, forget it, I didn't like that, let's scrap it and start over. Because it costs a lot of money to make them. And you don't want to do that and pull from the shelf. So anyway, that's why we're taking a little bit longer. Thanks for that question, Paula. How does Violet support herself? She isn't very good at her job, haha, Joanne. Well, fortunately, Aunt Zoe is providing a lot of, or is helping a lot right now with, in the early days with room and board, although Violet does cover the cost of groceries. And as time goes on, you'll know dinners with everybody. Each person brings food. You know, they take turns who's providing the food and making the dinner, which is kind of fun. I think that would be really neat to have, where you have your friends come over and they bring their food and then they make it and then you just get to eat, or you make it. So yeah, Violet is plus Violet did have some money saved. She just didn't have a lot. So she's kind of scrimping early on, but as time goes on and, you know, she gets that first building, she's able to do more, which is really nice. Okay, let's see. Patty, please no endings. Patty, you're like me. So I say it's gonna not really be, I'm not gonna do like the Avengers, or, well, I guess, yeah, they kind of did. I don't want to do that. I'll be honest. I love this story. I like the feel of these characters continuing, and there's many opportunities, in my opinion, for the story to keep going. Doesn't mean things can't be wrapped up somewhat. So yeah, I'm not really excited to put a final finish on it, but I think it can change and shift and things can be a little different as time goes on. That's as much as I'm going to say. Michelle Wilson, I was so pleased when Natalie came back. Me too. Oh my gosh, it's silly. I mean, yeah, but it hurt my heart when she was so mad at Vi. I mean, I completely understood why Natalie needed some time away, but I was so happy when she shows up at the end of book 4, I believe, right? Yes. It was a happy moment. It was a really fun scene to write, and I think I even got a little teary-eyed. I try, you know, I don't like to write super sad scenes, but there's certain parts in these stories that will get me a little bit, and a lot of it in Vi, because they have in the horizon for the Jackrabbit series. Yeah, there's a lot to come for the Jackrabbit series. I'm not going to tell you. I mean, Kate's not had her baby yet. It's going to take a little bit. Unfortunately, time moves slower in fiction than it does in real life. So she could have had several by the time, you know, since she got pregnant. There's a lot more to come. There's a lot and treasure finding and problems, poor Ronnie. So yeah, there's a bunch to come yet in the Jackrabbit series. So let your mom know. More of that too. Okay, so it sounds like you guys, I'm sorry if it's cutting out on you. I'll keep going a little bit here, and if it's bad, what we can do is we will save this, like I said, and put it out on YouTube. And Heather, could always turn into Addie and Lane series down the line. You know, I have this daydream that like one of my kids will want to write when they get older, and it's kind of starting to happen, oddly enough. And you know, there's opportunity there with Addie and Lane if they wanted to take up the pen and give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, and I see a lot to come yet for Violet and more. Let's see. Look at it, but keep looking down. Tara, hi. I really want to know. Me too. He's a slick guy, man. And there is more coming, as well as the Edward Undertaker series. There's a lot coming with Masterson, because he was still there, of course, way back when he was there. So, and that's really a lot of the fun that Sam and I have with that particular series, is we can take things, characters like Masterson, like Prudence and others, and show you back when what was going on with those characters forward as well, and you know, having them in the current series. Okay, let's see. There was one here I'm seeing. I want to grab this one because it's a big one. Cornelius reminds me of a college professor from Mari Larson. Hi. I worked for. He was very smart, but got caught up in his own world, so he didn't always show the best common sense. He would unlock his office door and then tear the office apart because he couldn't find his keys. I would usually find them for them when in the, that's funny. Yes, Cornelius, he's quite eccentric. He's smart. He's whip smart. He knows a lot about the paranormal world. It's just yeah, he really needs a girlfriend, I think, maybe. And I know Farisha's interested in the job, but for some reason that doofus Cornelius isn't looking at her. She's beautiful. I don't know what's wrong with him. Any plans for another book? And the old man's back in town from Rick. Hi. Yes, I have a lot. I want to build that series. Unfortunately, I have, well, fortunately, not unfortunately, I have 5 series running right now, and I struggle as best I can. But these books take me, 4 to 5 months to write and put out. So I would love to explore more. I have a lot of plans for Montana, and I think it was Joel, wasn't it? It's been a while. Montana and Joel, those guys. And if you remember, Cornelius is friends with Buffalo. Buffalo has a haunted hotel down there. So there is more to come, but I have to wait and see what I can, where things are. I need to write another dig site book, and that is next, except we're going to see what happens by the end of this one. But dig site has to come as well. And then more Jack, like I said, there's a lot more coming there. So I do have more plans. So I need to stay healthy and keep on my fingers going, because we have a lot of fun stories we can explore. Okay, let's see. Let me see where else, what other questions we have here. Joanne wants to know, oh wait, let me answer Gail first. Gail Mathers. Is Masterson the same one in the Undertaker series? He has to be old. What is he? Yes, Masterson. Same. He changes his name up a little bit, but he keeps on going. And what I don't think we've figured out, other, quote unquote, which leads me to the next question, but we haven't really figured out what exactly he is, except that he is in charge of, so he's pretty high up the chain. And that leads to Joanne's question, what exactly are others? Others, huh? They are entities, individuals from other realms, planes, whatever you want to call it. They have crossed over, a lot of them, and mixed with humans. Many of you know, or you will learn soon in book 5 and 6, as we move into that next week, that there are hybrids, human hybrids, and others that are not human at all, and some that live a long time and some that don't, because Violet comes into play. Kidding. But it's a real mix. And I try to think of it, there's just different layers out there of in humans, and we're on just one plane of it, or one, in one realm of it. So I don't know. I don't want to give you anything saying, oh, they are this, 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 and this, because Violet is still discovering it all. And so I don't want to ruin it as she discovers and you discover. But they are not human, and many average human lifespan. And they come into our world, our current world, our Violet's current world, through gateways, and some that are manned and watched, and some that are not, that are just happen to be holes there between that they find. So it makes it fun. Way back when I first wrote the Nearly Departed, I didn't initially plan it to be so paranormal. It was going to be mysteries and with a little bit of paranormal. But as time went on, there's so much more richness when you can open a world and others to go back and forth with. So it makes it so much more fun. For me, especially, I can think of creatures that are not of this world that just kind of blow Violet's mind, and Cooper's. I like to make Cooper, go, oh my gosh, what is that? Because Cooper's so down. So it really opened it up for me to get to have extra paranormal stuff. I'm going to take a quick break here. It's time for a drink because I told many of you I was going to drink with you. So, okay, my Buc-ee's cup, insulated. And I'm trying, instead of just straight tequila, I can't talk. It's a tequila liqueur. Becky Kaiser, you'll recognize this. She's the one who showed it to me. So just a little bit, not too much, but so if you have drinks, drink up if you're not already. And let's see what the next question is. All right. Woo! That's strong stuff. Patty Finch, will there be a series about one of the twins becoming a scharfrichter when they get older? That's what I was, what I mentioned earlier. I think it would be a lot of fun to keep going and explore. We've got it set up with Addie and Lane. They're coming online. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. And, you know, one of the questions is, will or will not Violet someday have a baby from, you know, Doc? It just, there's a lot out there that I'm waiting as we go through the series to see where it all ends up. And I can definitely Addie and start to experience this. Will I write a young adult, you know, like a something for 50 to read? No. I wish I could. I wish I was really good at it, but that's not my strength. I like more of adult humor, adult situations. So I don't, and I haven't written anything else in that range. So as an author, here's a little behind the scene. As an author, you have to think when you're going to start a new book, you should think, audience going to be in this. Now, you can vary from your original path that gained you your audience somewhat. So, for example, I can write the Undertaker series with my husband, and it's kind of Western paranormal. We've got paranormal in that. And the Western feels familiar. I can write, you know, the archaeology adventure type series with Quint because the paranormal in it ties into Deadwood. It feels similar. And same with Jackrabbit, there's a similarity. Now, when you write another series entirely, let's take the Silly Circus series, which I wrote for purpose, but now I have the rights back, so it's my little mini series. That is more of a paranormal romance, and a lot of you guys have read it, which is awesome, and I thank you for that. But a lot of readers didn't follow over into that. It was just too much off what they liked. So when you go to write a series, you know, write something new, you have to make a decision. Do I want to do something completely different? And probably not have any of my readers come with me because it's too different and they're not going to try it. Or do I want to stay on, you know, in the same kind of big arena and write something like that, you know, that fits in, that kind of is like my other books. If I were to write young adult, not new adult, which is different, young adult, it's completely different than my other books. I have to build a whole new audience with that. And to be honest, right now, that's not where I'm at. I don't want to start that. I just want to keep going with all this fun stuff we have going and keep adding to the worlds because this. So thank you for that question. And I can't remember who asked me that. I'm sorry. Paula, tequila liqueur. Yes, please share the label. Sorry, I didn't do a good job of that. Let me see. I try to, oh, I'm really bad at this. There. That is, we got Mexico. Becky brought it for me in Mexico. It's really good. But I like it with ice because I like it just a little bit watered down because it's so sweet. But it does pack a punch. So let's go to the next one. What is Barbara with? Is Frisia going to play a bigger part in the future? From Barbara. For that question, yeah, Frisia's not going anywhere yet. As you guys have realized, sometimes with each book in the series, it seems like we have different people that step up and are the stars of that particular book. You know, book 3 was a lot of Cornelius. Book 4 was the opera house actually played a big role in that series, or that book. So sometimes Frisia has a bigger part, participates in one of the future books here with and sometimes Frisia has a lesser part. Same goes with Rex and Ray and all those guys, and Susan. So the nice thing about having developed all these characters is that when I write the next book, each book, I can see who needs to be there for what we need to accomplish in the series arc, which characters I call in from the green room, if you will, and say, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is how we're moving the story along, and I don't want to ruin it for you guys in that way, like making it architectural in the background, but it is kind of the way I think of it is, okay, let's get these different characters. Frisia's not going anywhere. She might sell the place or she might not, but it doesn't mean she's leaving town. I like her too much. She's a fun character with a lot of potential. Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Do you ever take a break? You seem to be always producing more wonderful stories. Please don't get burned out. I take small breaks. Wendy reminds me periodically how between books I tend to take on these huge projects. Like my husband and I last August decided to paint the outside of our house. And that was a big project for the two of us. And we were both kind of switching off writing for a little bit to get busy painting our house. Go figure. It's got a lot of brick. You wouldn't think it would take that long to paint, but oh my. And then we have an outbuilding too that's not done. It's half done. Our neighbors love that, I'm sure, because it's half painted now, and we had to stop because it got too cold. So I do take breaks. I will paint the inside of the house. I'll do some big projects a lot of times after I am a little burned out because I'm tired of sitting at the keyboard. I'm not one of those authors who will tell you, I just love writing all the time and I think it's so fun and I just type 5,000 words a day and it just pours out of me. No, humor takes a little bit of extra time, in my opinion. You know, some people are really good at it naturally. Humor and all stuff takes time. But for me, especially in times like this, it's you really have to put yourself in a place away from what's going on in the world and try to put out stuff that's funny and not think of all the serious stuff that's going on out there. So that can get a little grueling at times when you're trying to keep putting words on the page. And that happens a lot, not just in writing the story, but when I'm done and I start the editing process for a book, that is when it gets really bloody, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting torn, you know, all the stuff that I put out, wonderful I thought at the time, is just getting ripped into shreds. And it's not all getting ripped. I'm not that bad, but ripped up a little bit as you try to get it just right, to not have consistency errors, to not have grammar errors. And it really kind of tears you apart in a different way than being just creative and putting it out there. Then it's like, okay, put on a little bit of, wow, my things come away out. Put on a little bit of armor, and go into the editing battleground and get ready, because you're going to get bloodied. And that on its own, by the time we push the publish, that wears me out as much as anything, is dealing with all that feedback that's coming back, which is helpful, wonderful, don't get me wrong, to make the book as best it can be. But at the same time, it's horrible. It's no fun. Okay, thank you for that question. And I'm gonna keep going, and my kids offer lots of breaks, and we usually get to travel in the summer, and that helps to take a break. We'll see how this year goes. Could be a different. I like the circus books too. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's very sweet of you, because I know those were vastly different. They were written for a different audience at the time. Another author who I really love dearly, Robin Peterman's on. So they were written to fit into her world. And when I received the rights back to them, because Kindle World shut down, suddenly I had characters just sitting out there with more to come. And I needed to take up and write book 2. And I still need to write this third novella in that and kind of keep that series going. But unlike other authors who say, oh, I'll just write a short story in a week and publish it the next week. Short stories, 30,000 word stories, take me a month to get them done and then go through the process, another month of the process. So those guys take away from the big books, which take, like I said, 5 to 6 months from start to finish. Okay. Barbara, will Violet's sister play a part in what's to come? Yes, Susan will return. Those of you who are through book 10 know what has happened. Susan will be back. She's not done yet. However, for now, she's off scene taking care of a problem that she caused. So but she will be back. Now this is a new one. I'm so excited for the next Deadwood installment. I'm hoping, I think it seems to be, that the first draft crew is loving it. So after 18, and they'll probably be 25, so that gives you an idea how close I am to the end. So we're coming. There's a lot to happen yet in this particular story, a lot of excitement, and I can't take too long between chapters, or I do get threatening letters from the first draft crew. They're wonderful. So I can't wait to share it with you guys, because so much is happening, and it's just boom, boom, excitement. And you'll see, I do believe we're going to do a pre-order on this one. So keep an eye out on, I'll put it again on all the social networks, and I will also send it out in my newsletter to say, you know, hey, the pre-order's available for book 11, Devil Days in Deadwood, and then you can go and do your pre-ordering if you like, or if you like to wait, or if you want the print book will probably be, usually is 2 or 3 weeks after the ebook goes live, because it takes a little bit of formatting and changing and getting the covers for a print book. It's a different little bit of formatting stuff going on. So that happens after the ebook. So stay tuned for that. Okay, let's see what else. Can you tell us about touring the Opera House? Okay. The Opera House. That's in book 4, Better Off Dead and Deadwood. First, let me take, it's the historic Homestake Opera House. And that is a real building and has a wonderful history. It's this huge building in Lead. It's been there early 1900s, late 1800s. I can't remember the date. Someone who lives there will tell me the correct date right now. Anyway, in the 80s, this beautiful building that was built in part by Homestake Mine money for the community of Lead, which were all the miners working at Homestake. They built this beautiful building that's like a community center type of thing. It's an opera house, and they used to be one of the biggest opera houses, like San Francisco. You go to Deadwood, Chicago. They were big at the time, but of course that fades as time goes on. But people that grew up there will tell you all kinds of wonderful stories about having that opera house in their world, in their lives as children. There was the pool underneath, which I talk about. There really was a pool down there that they have since put a cement cover on, and they have a floor now, and you know, it's just the pool. It's kind of weird. You can still go down in the pool. So there used to be a bowling alley in there. There was a shooting range down in there. It's this huge, you know, the opera house is really big. So it's 6 stories where the theater is. And it's just all one building. There's a library. And way back when, there was the men's smoking lounge. And the women, I can't remember what part they had, but amazing building. And in 1980-something, can't remember that date either, sorry, caught fire. And the roof caught fire of the Opera House theater part, and other parts caught fire, and it burned. And it was disaster. The roof caved in, you know, the fire, they sprayed her down, but it was a big heartbreaking thing for the community. And then it all, you know, once they got it all put out, they assessed the damage, they started rebuilding with funds from grants, donations, otherwise from people. The community members would come in and they would do certain parts they were really good at. There's a guy that was good at, I can't remember, parts of the theater, painting, doing some of the painting. They tried to take original, you know, pieces and then remold them, maybe with not original product, but they could, you know, the stuff that had burned, they could redo them and create it as close to what it was before. So it's really fun to go see the Opera House if you get a chance. And they do hold plays in there. They still, I think they're shut down right now, of course, like everything else, but they have plays. So the whole idea of them being in a play was not unusual. They have an art center in there where you can get pictures and get pictures framed, and a wonderful lady that works there, Karen Everett. She's so fun. Sarah, who used to run it, now has moved on. She was the one in charge of the Opera House. She's moved on, but there's someone else there I know. And so if you ever get to Lead, definitely check out the old Opera House because it's really cool. So when I was writing this story, Sam and I, summer prior, had taken a tour with Sue Stone Douglas, who is there always to help me, early readers, to make sure I had things accurate. And Sue was at the time or working there. And so she would go in the morning and I'd say, okay, check this. Where's the closet? Where's this? Because we had done the whole tour, but it's a huge, big building. And so I couldn't remember some parts right. And I wanted it to be so that when you read it, if you went and visited the Opera House, you could walk through it and experience the same walkthrough that Violet was, the same steps, the closets, the bathrooms, the whole thing. And to this day, when I use the restroom where Helen Tarragon was killed, I always, when I'm in there, I'm kind of rushing, going, "That's where Helen was killed. Oh, you better get out of here quick." So it's a lot of fun to go and experience that Opera House, and they do tours. And what's really wonderful is that if you ask them, "Will you give me? Can I have the Anne Charles tour?" I know up until last year they would do that, and they would take you down under to where the pool it used to be, to where the big scene with toward the end with Violet and Callie and Cornelius down there. You can go down and see where that actually took place. Now, when I went down with Sam and Sue and Sam, blah, blah, we went down there and they didn't have it set up for people like that. They've since cleaned it up. They had a haunted house down there semi-recently, and they had sheets with blood and stuff on them, just like I described in the story. So it was really spooky down there because there was all these creepy things set up. So I tried to include that in. So just a little bit of behind the scenes of the old Opera House there in Lead. Like I said, when we can get out again, take a trip, go see Deadwood, go see Lead, check out the old Opera House. Amongst, there's tons of other stuff that I include in this series that they're real places. They're the rec center. That's a real place. Whenever I go there and take the kids swimming when we're visiting, I always look up where they run above the pool. There's a track. I always look up and think, is Doc up there running? There's the library. When we go to the library, there is a South Dakota room where they have the history with South Dakota stuff. So I try to have fun with things that are real and things that are there. So if you ever wanted to go there, you could experience a little bit of it and feel like you're still in fiction, even though you're not. What book was the Warhammer introduced? That's from Gail Miller. That's a hard question. Let me think about that for a minute. She has it in book 7. I am trying to remember if it happened. Was it introduced in 6, or was it was dropped off at her house in 7? Was it at the end of 6? You're gonna have to let me look into that one because I can't remember 7. But I do love that Warhammer. She's funny with that. Will Quint have bigger roles in the Deadwood series, or will he stay mostly in the Dig Site series? From Becca. Hi, Becca. Well, there's a lot going down in the Yucatan that Quint needs to deal with. I can in the future where Quint could come back for different things, but if you look at the timeline right now, Quint's timeline is a little bit ahead of Violet's in their time. So we're in January in Violet's world, and Quint is just getting ready to go down to Mexico. So you can kind of see where, Quint, I have to catch up to that. Jackrabbit is running neck and neck now with Deadwood, but Dig Site is still a little bit ahead of them. So there's more to come for sure. Things up and more happens. Book 7. Oh, okay. So the answer, Gail, the Warhammer was introduced in book 7. Thank you, Diane, for helping me with that question. Diane is the one who helps me keep track of my worlds with the big old fat OneNote file that has everything you can imagine. in that for me to be able to go back and say, when was the Warhammer introduced? What was the latest thing, Diane, we were working on? It's for these quizzes, I think. Or no, it was, I don't know. I once contacted Diane on Easter Day. And I just wrote, I'll write out of the blue to her, and I wrote, I need to, what was it? Have had sex in the shower yet? And she wrote back, Happy Easter. So it's really fun to work with Diane. She's great. She lets me bug her all day and night, whenever. She could be at her parents' in Florida or wherever, and I'll just say, I need to know when this. Have we ever talked about this? Has Ray ever, had a foot shoved up his ass for me? Question yet. But anyway, gives you an idea of what Diane puts up with for me, and she's wonderful about it. So thank you, Diane, for answering that one. How did you picture the headless dead guy for the beginning of book 3 in Dead Case? How did I picture him? How did I come up with him, if that's what you mean? Yeah, that was just disgusting. I guess, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of horror shows where I could see the whole thing in my head. Only I did really kind of want him covered, because that's just horrific. Which is why I thought it would be fun to have Harvey come in and be dancing to, I think it was it Staying Alive from the Bee Gees? Yeah. So I tried to give it that lighter touch so that it wouldn't be so dark at the beginning. Early on, when I wrote the first Deadwood book, I remember I got interviewed several times, and people would say, how could you have such a dark subject with these little girls going missing and yet be including humor? And I would say, life is dark, and yet we still find things to laugh about. So that's kind of what I think about in regards to this series. There's a lot of dark things that happen, a lot of ugly deaths and horrible things. Take Jane. I mean, she didn't die like a Romeo and Juliet, take a little poison and lay back. She was at the same time, Violet's in mourning for her at the beginning of book 4, I believe. But then things move on and life moves on, and we have to keep. So Violet keeps going. It was waging war against the hard Arizona clan looking for tool loads. This is Gail Miller. What book? When she asked when the hammer was introduced, I was waging war against the hard Arizona clan looking for a tool at Lowe's. The one I bought the first time, saw it, and I thought it looks like Violet's Warhammer. That's funny. I love that. Whew. Okay. Barbara West guy. Will Violet ever tell Quint about what's happening? I believe she's going to have to. I think it's going to eventually come to the point where it's going to come out between the two of them. I don't know. Some of you would probably go, yeah, I'd tell my siblings in a heartbeat what's happening. I don't know. If it was crazy as that, I would be hesitant to tell too many people, because I'd be afraid they'd think I was nuts and want to put me away. Let's see if we have some more. Sorry. I feel like book 4 was when Doc and Violet really became a couple. Doc making dinner for Violet was one of my favorite parts, Rebecca Klein. Me too. They're related for many, many reasons. And I think that's true for a lot of people. When you have children from a previous relationship, it's not an easy, happily ever after, here we are. The kids cause friction. There's friction because they're my kids and this is how I raise them, but here comes this person that you're supposed to work with and be with, and let them have some control over things too. So it's a lot of fun to watch Vi and Doc grow as a couple, because there are all kinds of struggle, and Violet was the sole parent for so long. So and she's an alpha kind of personality, so it's not easy for her to back off, but at the same time, if she wants a future with him, she's got to figure out how to balance that. And Doc has to figure out how to deal with kids all the time. I mean, a bachelor for all those years, oh boy, I can't imagine going into a household with twins. That'd be crazy. How much time has passed from book 1 to book 11? From Susan. Hi, Susan. I think book 1, she moved there in like April. Book 1 started in July. I think it runs in July, and then we are book 11, where I'm currently, we're in mid-January. So yeah, it's not been long. For most of us, it's been almost a decade that we started reading all this. But for Violet, it's not been very long. That's why it's kind of fun if you go back and you start over and you read the series through. Then it feels more like, the time is progressing as it should compared to what we're used to. Quinn is getting ready to bring Angelica home to meet his family. This is from Anita. Hi, Anita. Is that going to be in the new book? No, because again, two things there. Quint is several months further in the storyline than what we are in Violet's story. And the other thing is, Quint was not ready, if I remember right, in Make No Bones About It, he wasn't quite ready to bring her home to his family. On the little trip they were going to be taking at the end of that story. So, but he's not ashamed of her by any means. Happening, but we got to wait and see, of course, what's going on with everybody with the series as we get closer and we line up the storylines. All right, let's see if there's some more questions. You guys are awesome. Thank you for asking all these wonderful questions. It's really cool to get to explore, especially these books that I haven't talked about in so long, because we've always been in the, further along the books. Gail Mathers, who put the note in Violet's purse? We don't know, Gail. We're still trying to figure that out. There's somebody crooked somewhere. There's somebody, and it's at the police department, which is what's kind of scary about it, is who is the one at the police department that is not on the up and up. So yikes. Okay, we're running about an hour and 15 minutes so far. I'll take a couple more questions if we have them, and then we should probably give it a break so you guys ready to do it. And we'll do it again next week if everybody's game. We can talk about books 5 and 6 and Extra Grind and Meanwhile back in Deadwood. And I had a lot of fun with Meanwhile because we had just as a side note, between book 4 and book 5, Sam and I packed up the kids in our house and we moved to Arizona. So there was a lot happening outside of the story world to try to get everybody moved down here. And book 5, I was writing in the process of packing while we were painting. I remember Sam, he used so much caulk up there as you get your house ready to go that his finger was sore from just the constant, and we were painting every day, wake up, paint, write, wake up, paint, write. So I was able to quit my job between book 4. Actually, it was somewhere around book 4, I quit my day job. And then we were moving south so that our kids would go outside and play more because, the rain in Seattle. So all that was going on, and I was writing book 5 of the Deadwood series. So it was a crazy time. And then during Meanwhile, I actually came up with the idea for Meanwhile. Well, working at the school library with the elementary school, I was volunteering, and there was a book about Meanwhile, and I thought, well, that'd be fun to do. We'll have a book about that, Meanwhile, and keep doing each chapter like that. So it wasn't an original idea, but I did. Okay, so are there any other questions before I close her up? I don't see any coming in. We will put this out just like we did on YouTube. Sorry, I have to think of the different social networks. We'll put it out on YouTube with the others so that if you want to watch it later, again, if your computer froze because everybody's on the internet now, if things you can go and check it out later. Hopefully I'm not glitchy during the recording, and it's only, you can go watch it later and go through it all again. And if you think of any other questions that you didn't ask for this time, you can always bring them for next time, and we'll go through them. So we'll have fun. And that's all I can think of at the moment. And I'm not seeing any more questions from you guys, so I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It's making this whole isolation less isolation-y. It's more fun. And I'm hoping that you guys are getting questions you've always wondered answered, and you can ask me about anything. I'll try to stay mostly on the books and we're talking about, but otherwise we can ask other questions too. So me and my big hat are going to say goodbye for today, and we'll see what hat and background we have next time. All right, you guys, thank you for everything, and I will talk to you later. Bye.